Welcome to Story Chats at Inspy Romance. I'm Elizabeth Madry, and I'm here with my two co-hosts.
I'm Narelle Atkins.
I'm Valerie Comer.
We've got Rebekah Millet with us here today to talk about her debut novel, Julia Monroe Begins Again. So I'm going to read your bio real quick, and then we will dive in. Rebekah Millet is a Cascade Award and ACFW First Impressions Award-winning author of contemporary Christian romance novels. A New Orleans native, she grew up on beignets and cafe au lait and loves infusing her colorful culture into her stories. Her husband is an answer to prayer who puts up with her rearranging furniture and being a serial plant killer. Her two sons keep her laughing and share in her love of strawberry Pop-Tarts. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me and all your listeners for their time and listening and watching. I appreciate it.
Yay. So we're going to start like we usually do, and you say you listen, so hopefully you're ready to have you tell us a little bit about your book.
Oh, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Excellent.
I knew it was coming. So my book is about Julia Monroe, who just turned 40. So all of us women in our 40s, you know, we can totally relate to her with having those first mammograms and battling muffin tops and dealing with older parents. And in Julia's case, an older parent who is very cranky.
Yes.
Yes. And the story also takes place in New Orleans. So that's a big part of it. But another thing other than the New Orleans setting that readers will find out really fast is that Julia is an avid risk avoider. So 10 years ago, in the blink of an eye, she lost her husband and was left a widow with two small kids. But now those kids are grown up and they have moved out of town. They're attending college out of state. And so Julia has this newfound extra time on her hands. So she decides, you know, I'm going to put that time into expanding my small business, which for her is cleaning houses for a living. So, but little does she realize, though, is that her ex from 20 years ago, Samuel Reed, he pummeled her heart in college. He moves back to town, and of all things, he joins her church.
And,
yeah, just rotten scoundrel for doing that. So he is determined to win her back, and she is determined to have nothing to do with him. But she has a meddling best friend who gets involved, and that's where the story just takes on from there.
Yep.
And I just love seeing Cooney right there. Oh.
She's so beautiful.
You got a fan, Coon.
So sweet.
It's like I woke up from my nap to come up here, and I like the snuggles, but I don't know. I just need my nap. She's almost 14. She is 14, actually. She's getting to be an old girl.
Wow.
Well, she's still happy.
Just like, don't talk about me that way.
All right, Narelle, do you want to kick us off with our question?
I will. I'm just going to detour into something. When I was reading this book, I had to giggle every time she was looking at the app and tracking her teenage kids over in North Carolina because I actually have Snapchat on my phone that I do not use. You'll never find me because it's set up in a way that no one can find me, but it's purely because of my daughter. Like, there was a reason I had to communicate with Snapchat. And when I don't know where she is and she's in her early 20s, I will go on Snapchat and spy and see to make before I send the "Are you alive?" Message that she gets sent occasionally because I've just lost track of where she is.
I do that with my oldest son. If I haven't heard from my oldest son in so many days, I'm like, "Are you alive?" You know?
Yep.
That's the text session.
Yeah. But then before I send that message, I now go to Snapchat to see where the last check-in was. Excellent. And if it was in the last few hours, then I can say, okay, don't have to bother her, all good. Right. But anyway, I'm going to get onto questions now.
Does she know that you do that, or is now she knows?
Oh, no, she knows. She knows that I do that because then I'm not bothering her. So she's quite happy for me to know where she is, which is good, I guess.
Good, yes.
But, yeah. But anyway, so let's get back to the story. So I really liked the New Orleans setting, and New Orleans is a city that I would love to visit. Never had an opportunity to go there at all. And I think it's a very unique city. It has a lot of culture and flavor, and it's not like an anybody, any city, if that makes sense. We often talk about books where it could be set anywhere in the Midwest of America. It doesn't actually get really grounded in the setting, whereas this book is very New Orleans. So I thought we could talk about what readers can expect in terms of how the culture, the flavor, the people, the food, like how all that sort of infuses the story and really takes you on that journey to New Orleans in the book with the characters.
Well, that's such a huge compliment. So thank you so much for that. You're gonna find so much stuff about New Orleans. And it's so funny because when I was writing it, I wasn't really thinking that way. I was just writing what I'm used to, and you know, my editors are like, oh, we love this New Orleans thing and that New Orleans thing. I was like, oh, okay. You know, that's great. And so, but you're gonna get to go to different places. Like one scene takes place in Jackson Square. That was a great scene between Julia and Kate. You get to experience, of course, the cuisine with jambalaya and some different types of gumbos, and yeah, those were really fun to write about. And what else did you ask about?
Just what we actually see in terms of New Orleans. So there was a French Quarter mention as well. I remember that.
Yes. So there's a few scenes that take place in a little shotgun house in the Vieux Carré. So that was fun to write. And you get some glimpses of what life is down there with seeing like the mule-drawn cart that goes by. It's little touches like that you find down here, you know, that you find it every day. So it was nice to include those things and kind of shine a light on them.
Well,
definitely.
And Sam's job that he sets up with his river tours that aren't really in the river, this sort of swamp tours.
Yeah. Yes.
Bayou tours, I guess.
Yes, with the alligators and all that good stuff.
Been on one of those in Florida.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't take Cooney. You see how horrified she is at the thought. What? Alligator?
Oh no, I wouldn't take Cooney. I'd be so afraid if she got out the boat.
Oh, alligator lunch.
Yep.
Snack.
No, it was very, very rich in New Orleans. I've been there, but only twice. But it still was really fun. It was really fun to visit. Valerie?
So, Sam. He, Cooney's done. That's fine, because it's easier to think without her trying to get away. Sam, he was a very strong personality. And sometimes that's really hard to pull off. And I had some trouble with Sam at first. So he was just, shall we say, absolutely certain that he was going to get Julia to date him again. And he wasn't willing to take no for an answer. No, he didn't cross any actual real lines, I'd like to point out, dear readers and listeners. But he was very strong. Tell me what was your inspiration for him and how that played into his character.
I think for him, it was just his character. He's at this point in his life and what he's been through, he's seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of life. And his own life before coming a Christian, he realizes, you know, he sees all the mistakes that he made. And so therefore, when he does see something good and something that he feels like is the right way to go, then his determination kicks in. And so I think for him, that was the driving factor, is he knew that Julia was a good person. He knew that he wronged her terribly in the past. And that was also his vulnerability too, is having that past go against him and having to show Julia that he was not who he used to be.
Right.
So.
Because he was definitely not going to be a member of her church in college.
No.
So when he shows up in, I think it was right in chapter 1.
Right at the beginning, yeah.
Like, I know who that is. I'm out of here. I'm not talking to that guy. What's he doing talking to the pastor? Oh, no.
Yeah, she like flees, you know.
Let me run and hide.
Yes.
because it's such a hard balance. And I've written sometimes too some stronger male characters, and man, they exist. Those guys are definitely out there, and some of them are very nice men.
Yeah.
Who deserve the good things, but I just find that it's a really hard balance. So I was
struggle
curious.
with Sam because I think primarily because he's former military. That to me, because my husband was military. So once I saw former military, I'm like, oh, okay, I know who this is. I know who he is.
Which makes sense. This Canadian wouldn't have that same reference point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nor do I.
They get in and get it done.
Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah, that makes sense.
He was very, very just spot on for the backstory that he had. I mean, it was just to me very clear. Like, I mean, because he was a Marine. No, Army Special
Green
Forces.
Beret.
Yeah, Green Beret. Which, like, yeah. Yep, that's who. So to me, once the military, which again was not far buried, because I can struggle with an alpha male if there's not a reason that they're an alpha male.
Right.
And I think sometimes also because in Christian romance, we don't necessarily get the alpha males as much, because it's hard to pull off a godly alpha male, which you did. I really think you did. And yeah,
I saw that relief.
Yeah, it's a hard undertaking to balance that self-assuredness with a man who's relying on God. And don't we want the man to be relying on God to be the true hero? But the self-assuredness is also what makes him an alpha. And I thought you did a very nice job making a true like Christian alpha. But as an American, so if you're an American reader and you see that he's former military, you're going to have probably zero problem with him whatsoever. If you're not familiar with military men, it might, at the beginning, there are a few, until you get to know his heart a little bit more, you may struggle a little bit. But I loved Sam. I thought he was fantastic.
Well, and that was kind of the oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go.
I was like, that was kind of the fun thing with writing the first person point of view with Julia is, as a reader, I love reading that point of view because, and I think it's just fun to that we're reading with her, that we're trying to figure Samuel out as well. We're trying to figure out if he really has changed, if, so that aspect of it made it a lot of fun for writing it.
I got a real kick. I think this is later in the story, but it's not enough of a spoiler to spoil anything. When she has checked out a book from the library on Green Berets and he finds it sitting on her in her living room and picks it up and goes, oh.
Not so
about this, are we? And she's like, you weren't supposed to see that.
Yeah,
that was fantastic. Yeah.
As soon as that first scene pops in where she goes to the library to check it out, I'm like, he's going to end up finding this book. I'm going to work that in at some point because, you just want to, torture your characters, as y'all know.
Yes.
So what we do for a living.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I enjoyed the fact that Julia and Samuel are older, because I'm not 20 anymore, sadly. Actually, I don't want to be 20 anymore. I'm pretty happy.
This day and age.
Either. I don't even want to be 40 again. So there you go.
But I thought it was an interesting choice for a debut. Like what inspired that? Is that just how it came, or?
It's just the easiest way I can describe it is God just put the story in my heart to write it.
Yeah.
I'm a reader, and so I've noticed the books that I was reading that I wasn't finding characters, as I'm getting older, I wasn't finding so many characters, staying, getting older with me. And so the thought had popped in my mind, and God just kept pressing me about it. And so I talked to a group of friends who are just big time readers, and I asked them, I'm like, have y'all found anything with 40-year-old characters and, traditional inspirational publishing? And they were like, no. And I was like, well, what if I wrote one? And they were just like, yes, do it, like that would be so great to read, to relate to. And I was still very hesitant because, like you said, I'm a debut author at that point. I'm just still trying to get my foot in the door, and so I just kept saying, no, I don't feel it's right. I don't see that out there. But God just kept like tapping me on the shoulder about it. Like, hey, let's give this some attention. And so finally, I did. And I don't know if you want to know the story with it or, okay.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm gonna write a rough outline and some sample chapters just to see how it feels. Yeah. And so it felt so good to write a 40-year-old, to write with humor the things that I was experiencing, and so I was like, okay, well, I got it out my system, and I went back to writing a different book, and but God just kept nagging me about it. And so I decided to, I said, okay, well, this is what I'll do. I'll submit it for a contest, and I'll get some anonymous feedback from judges. I'll see if they like totally shun me on writing a 40-year-old romance, or if they like it. And so I was like, okay, so that's what I did. I sent it off for a contest. And in the meantime, the latest manuscript that I'd written, I had gotten some interest from another publisher on it. And so I was like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. And so then like the next week I had, I attended a virtual conference, and I had an editor appointment with Ray Lashane Hare at Bethany House Publishers. And so you get to submit a one sheet for those. And so I feel kind of sneaky that I did it, but I sent a one sheet for the 40-year-old romance, because I figured, well, what do I have to lose, that she sees it. And so, so we have our appointment. I didn't pitch her anything because I was going to pub board with another project with another publisher. So I just picked her brain, and it was a nice conversation. I don't think I embarrassed myself in that 10 minutes. So that was a win.
Obviously not too badly.
Obviously not.
No.
Yeah. So we parted ways. A few days later, she reached out to me and she said, I looked at your one sheet. And I was like, oh no. And so it turned out the contest that I had submitted those chapters for, she was a final judge on, and she read them. And so when we met, she was reminded of that. And she said, what do you think about moving forward with this project? And I was just like mind blown.
That's amazing.
Then it was just a lot of time on my knees in prayer, family and friends praying to decide which path I'm going to go down. And I just felt the Lord leading me to go with the 40-year-old romance. And so I have goosebumps right now going down me just talking about it, because it was just so inspired by God. Because all of this happened because I stopped writing for a contract and I started writing for God. And that's when everything changed for me with my writing, with the way I approached it, with the joy I had in it. And, for me, that started back in 2019. So the last manuscript that was offered the contract, and then this book, those were all written under a lot of prayer over my work, which I had never done before. And so it was just amazing how it all unfolded from there.
That's fantastic. That's a great story of how it came to be. I love it.
Are there going to be more 40+ romances in your future?
Yes, there's at least one more coming. I've got a 2-book contract.
Yay. And is it going to be the friend? Is it going to be the friend?
Yes, it's going to be
good.
Yay. Yes, it's going to be Kate's story. She's going to get to have some romance in her life.
Yay.
Excellent. We all need romance.
I love
it. And
that.
did we get a hint of that is there a hint of that in the current book, just out of curiosity, of where that one's going?
The hero in the current, in this book?
In book 2. So do we have a hint of it with what Kate's doing? Has the hero hit the page in book 1? Not yet? Okay.
He doesn't hit the page in book 1.
Okay.
So you may think he hits the page in book 1, but he doesn't.
Honestly, I'm kind of glad, because you would have to do a lot to make the one prospect worthy of her.
Indeed.
He needs some work.
But I mean, don't we all?
Well, yes. Yeah. But I'm not trying to haggle down my cleaning service prices for a office building. So. Excellent. Oh, I'm so excited. Now, do you have any sorts of dates for Kate's book yet, or it's still just being written?
I'm in the process of writing it. I think the date for that is spring of 2025.
Okay.
But don't hold me to it. But okay. I think that's what it is.
Cool. That's exciting. Very cool.
Oh, that's early 2025. See, I'm going to sit here and think spring, fall, autumn. It's all swapped. Got to swap it around in my head. Yeah. So early 2025. Okay.
Early 2025. And I love the way that the timing is, because the book starts out right at the climax of Mardi Gras. And that's spring is when Mardi Gras is hitting. So it's kind of like perfect timing for it.
That's fabulous. Cool. That's going to be fun. Well, I'm going to look forward to that
Thank
for
you.
A long time now, apparently.
I know it's a long break, but Bethany House is just so great to work with, because they know I needed a longer break with everything, with I have a job and family and all that kind of stuff, and so they're really sweet and cognizant of that. They didn't want me writing under stress or.
That's
anything.
great. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
that's excellent. Very cool. Well, do you have anything else that you want to tell our listeners?
I don't think so.
Okay. You did say there's a pre-order bundle at Baker Bookhouse. Is that correct?
Yes. So if you pre-order my book from Baker Bookhouse, bakerbookhouse.com, you get 40% off, free shipping, and while supplies last, you'll also get a bookmark, which is really cute, and also an autographed book plate.
Fun. That's excellent.
And that's for Julia Monroe Begins Again, and that's releasing in just a couple weeks-ish.
Yes, October 24th. So yeah, get your pre-order in before October 24th.
And that's for the paperback.
Yes,
for the paperback.
Yes.
Obviously, it'd be a little hard to put your book plate on a Kindle. Some of us could try.
If someone wants one for their Kindle, I'll send it to them.
There you go. You heard it here first, folks.
That's right. That's excellent. And you have been gracious enough to put your website up on the backdrop for you, but I'm going to go ahead and read it for those of you who are audio only listeners. It is RebekahMillet.com, and it's Millet. No, did I say it right?
No. You say it however you want. It doesn't matter.
I messed it up. I was doing so well. And it's Rebekah with a K, K-A-H, and it'll be in the show notes. I'll write it in the show notes so that you can just ignore my terrible pronunciation of her name. I'm so sorry.
I've heard it so many ways. It doesn't matter. I'll answer to anything.
All right. Do Narelle or Valerie have any final thoughts on the book?
I think we're good.
Yep, I think we are good.
Although I came down a little hard on Sam. It wasn't that I didn't like the story or Sam. It just took me a bit to get down with them.
That's very understandable, and I can say this: my sister had the same problem.
Okay.
And so I heard it from her early on.
And you're like, but there'll be a percentage who will struggle with like any personality type.
Yeah.
So you just
this
have
is
to
the joy of being a writer, right? That's
what I'm finding out.
And it's not going into his viewpoint. So often we'll have the dual viewpoint. So you'd see what was going on in his head. Yeah. But sometimes with an alpha, that can be a disadvantage, not necessarily an advantage. So yes, you don't actually hear what he's thinking. Yeah.
And I loved watching him build a relationship with her sons too. That was funny.
That was so fun.
So anyways, carry on. Yes. We're trying to wrap up here.
All right. Well, we are so glad that you joined us today, and appreciate it greatly. We all enjoyed the book, and I hope that all of you listening will also go enjoy the book when it comes out. And we thank you for joining us today at Story Chats. Let us know your thoughts in a comment on the YouTube channel. Here I go being old again. Or the Facebook page. And
otherwise known as the Facebook.
The Facebook. Yes. Apparently I'm now old enough to be just the Facebook.
I call it the YouTube to my kids. And they cringe.
Yes, absolutely. If you are over on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. And we will look forward to seeing you again next week. In the meantime, don't forget to fall in love with a good book. Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.